Hey, this is Kyle Stowers, and you're listening to Fish on First.
Welcome into Fish on First Live, presented by Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida, and of course, part of the Foul Territory Network. I'm Jeremiah Geiger. Joining me is Nate Karsmer and Eli Sussman, recapping the Marlins taking 2 out of 3 from the in-state rivals, the Tampa Bay Rays, at home. A pleasant surprise, I would say, guys. I predicted 2 out of 3. I wasn't very confident in my prediction, but they dropped the first game, got shut out, pretty miserable baseball game to watch, and then some pretty good baseball over the last couple of days. So I'm going to start with Nate. And as always, we go in reverse order. For today's game, Sandy Alcantara absolutely pitched the gem. The Marlins did just enough on offense, put together a 4-1 win. What was your takeaway from Sandy in particular and the offense?
Just Sandy in his second consecutive start, being able to go 7 innings for a Marlins team that, as we all know, has been completely depleted of pitching depth. It feels like they've, done bullpen games about 3 days of the week since these avalanche of injuries have compounded for them. But yeah, man, Sandy was great. Obviously, I think the caveat is that he was hit pretty hard. A lot of the hardest hit balls this game did come off of Miami's ace. But hey, man, I think a big sign of prime Sandy is that maybe he'll walk a few guys like we saw in that, was it the sixth, his last inning, the sixth inning with the strike him out, throw him out. Prime Sandy, when Sandy's at his best, that he can whittle out of those jams and do some ground ball, really bear down when the Marlins need him to. He had some great pitches towards the end of his outing and really didn't let any of those hits or, sometimes those walks get to him like we did see when those hit by pitches compounded in Toronto. But back-to-back outings from Sandy, he's been very great. Like I said, when the Marlins have needed him the most, El Caballo has stepped up. So big for this team at the plate. I mean, I don't know what else there's to say about Esteury Ruiz. The Marlins, with their free agent luck, hasn't been that well, but man, watching Esteury Ruiz is like watching Willie Mays Hayes from Major League, man. That guy is so fun to watch. What he's now 30 of like 34, 35 in his career, stealing third. That is incredible. The Marlins, who are a team that obviously pride themselves on small ball, even though we saw in the last series they hit the ball out of the yard a lot. But in this game in particular, man, he walks, steals second, steals third, and then scores on a ball that didn't even leave the infield. So he's been incredible for them. Otto Lopez obviously building his all-star case with a triple and a double when Miami needed the most. So really can't complain about this series. The Marlins, I believe, the back-to-back years splitting with the Rays in the Citrus Series, who have owned them for the better part of what seems like a decade now. So they're starting to inch back in the Citrus Series battle. So no complaints. All of a sudden, they've won, 5 of their last 6 games. So a week ago at this time, we were ready to put the nail in this coffin. But like we said on that stream, man, the Marlins, something about these summer Marlins, they seem to rally together and play good baseball in the summer months. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah, zooming back to the previous series, it's 5 out of 6 for the first time since the very start of the season, since the first 6 games of the season. That's the only other time they've had a 5-1 stretch so far. So if this feels a little bit different, it should. Like, I understand that people are probably fatigued with all the ups and downs, but this is a higher up if you want to look at it on a week-by-week basis, since that opening homestand when they ran through what we thought at the time was going to be super soft competition. In this case, there's nothing soft about the Rays. I mean, they've been playing mediocre baseball the last few weeks, but overall they're the second best team in the American League, top 3 at the very worst. Like, this is a good team that does a lot of things well, including, I mean, in the series overall, the Marlins win the series. They actually lose the run differential battle by 1, if you care about that. The Rays showed in that first game how complete they look when they had amazing starting pitching and good enough offense. Like, this is a really high quality win for this Marlins team, even being at home, even with all the caveats. On Esteury Ruiz, one of my fun stats that I'm looking at is his stolen base total versus his number of starts. Like, to this point, he's only started 13 games all year. He's stolen 11 bases, and I think those numbers are going to remain like super close with one another. He has really been an ideal role player for this team, where they know what he is, they know what his limitations are, but when he's used in the right situations, he really does move the needle and help them in some key situations. That's been a nice little move that has helped round out the roster. Like, at this moment, well, we could get into more. We've been getting into it the last few streams. They're still in a pretty ugly spot when it comes to the pitching side, especially the starting pitching depth area. But on the position player side, there's just there's are a lot more complementary pieces than there have been at any other point so far this season. And that's showing itself both offensively and with improved defense, I think, too.
One of the funniest stats regarding Esteury Ruiz that I find hilarious is his batting average is below the Mendoza line. He's hitting just 196, but his OPS is pushing 800. It's at 771. He's drawing a lot of walks. And really, when you couple that with the speed, like Nate was saying, that's what you want. That's why they traded for him at the beginning of the year before the season started. And he's been a bit of a spark plug for the team. The other guy offensively who we have to touch on from this game in particular, and really all year long, has been Otto Lopez. I mean, the guy continues to rake. Another 2 hits today. He doubled. He also hit a triple, his third triple of the season. He's up to 16 doubles. So the home runs not coming a ton, only 5 on the season so far, but the extra base power is still there. And I mean, he's hitting 336. Like, he continues to just rack up base hits. Him and Xavier Edwards, whose average, I believe, is still over 300. He's been slumping a little bit as of the last week or so, but Otto Lopez, man, he has really blossomed into a star for this Marlins team. And when they acquired him a couple seasons ago, nobody really knew what to make of it. You know, we knew he was a good bat to ball guy, but for him to have this breakout in now year 3 in Miami, it's awesome. And he's deserving of an all-star nomination, to say the least. And right up there in the batting title race for the National League. I can't say enough good things for Otto Lopez, who has an argument to solidify himself as probably the shortstop of the foreseeable future. I think this was a player, guys, who the last couple of years maybe was considered a bridge player, right, wondering when the Marlins are going to get their franchise guy. Well, Otto's here, and he is the franchise shortstop.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, a very reasonable way of how he was perceived. He seemed like at first it was a decent bridge player. And that, I think even last year, a guy that you felt could be on the team long-term, but not necessarily as an everyday shortstop. He's a guy where, as you look forward, it seems like they may have missed a window to potentially extend him. I know that he wasn't necessarily top of mind when it came to extension candidates this past offseason, and now he probably will be. But he's at a point where when you're performing like this offensively at such a premium position, he's in select company. He is in every bit an all-star quality player, and one that I'd be, at this point, it seems more likely than not that he's going to get in the National League at that position this year. As you noted, it's been a weird offensive profile because of the lack of homers. I thought that seemed like the most obvious area where he would improve this year, is hit for more power. He was somebody that seemed unlucky from a slugging department last year. And to this point, the difference has been more on just a lot of hard hit line drives on balls in play. And today being that triple being just a really crushed line drive the opposite way, using all fields more often and hitting the ball a little bit more often, but a combination of the luck evening out and him just taking that step forward. He's gotten, I feel like, a little bit lost in the shuffle. People like to group him together with Liam Hicks, with X, for understandable reasons. It's just that Otto is at this point, like, he gets lost just because he doesn't have as many RBIs as Hicks has, and because his on base isn't quite as high as X is. But at this point, he's the one that has the most defensive responsibility. He's the one that is still a really great base runner, and the consistency. A stat that I threw out there recently during the Mets series is that it was his first hitless series of the season. And then there was an official scoring change, and he actually did get credited with a single during the first game of that Mets series. So the streak is still alive. He's 21 for 21 and getting hits in every single series. It's a testament to the fact that he plays literally every day, with one exception, this entire season. And the fact that he's just, that consistency, I think, just speaks volumes about how important he is, that every single series he's making some type of positive impact while also occupying such a critical position defensively.
Definitely. I think it's also just a testament to Otto, like you guys have noted, that this guy was brought in as a waiver claim in one of the darkest days of the Marlins this decade, like May 2024. This team was rock bottom. They brought in Otto Lopez as maybe a rotational player to play. Let's not forget, this guy was a second baseman. He was brought in even up until the halfway point of last season. This guy, second baseman. And then I remember in 2024, try him in left field. He had his bat in there. And Otto Lopez, man, he gets that opportunity. He's kept working continuously. still a great teammate. But the fact that this guy has now been, like you said, Jeremiah, a potential franchise shortstop for the Marlins. If anyone was saying that back in whatever early 2024 when the Marlins signed him, I'll give you $1,000 right now. I mean, there's no way. Anyone that could have predicted this happening, it's just, like I said, testament to Otto and this front office for sticking with him, really not trying to move him off his position. Let him continue to develop for a guy that's still kind of young. He's probably entering the prime of his career right about now. So I have no opposition for this guy being in this franchise's plans long term. Kevin put out a great piece yesterday about how Ivor Arquette's been looking, obviously, who could be a franchise player in the future for Miami. But I think you could just slide right over to third. You keep Otto there for the future, and then all of a sudden, if they want to keep Ronettes, which again I would be not opposed to whatsoever, if anyone knows me, you got a pretty good offense right now. And obviously, if Kyle Stowers can stick at first, or the Marlins have a lot of options there. But then looking at a potential future of Ivor Arquette, Otto Lopez, and Xavier Edwards up the middle and around the infield. So it's looking bright in that position. So again, just tip of the cap to Otto for what he's been able to do.
Another position that's looking pretty bright is catcher, and Joe Mack is off to a really good start to his major league career. He's been everything as advertised defensively for this team. You shouldn't run on Joe Mack if you're a potential base thief in the major leagues. Absolute cannon of an arm, and this pitching staff has reaped the benefits of him behind the plate. For the last year and a half, we've had to deal with Agustin Ramirez. The pitchers have had to deal with Agustin Ramirez defensively, Liam Hicks defensively. Hicks obviously is not as porous as Agustin was, but Joe Mack is the best defensive catcher the Marlins have had in years. And I think it's safe to say that the bat is slowly coming around. There was some discourse, I think we talked about it on the last stream, Nate, where there were some fans saying, oh, Joe Mack can't hit them at the major league level and this and that. And I'm like, guys, it's so difficult to hit at the major league level. You have to give it some time. And he's starting to turn around, hit his first home run a few days ago. But offensively, that's just the cherry on top. For me, I'm just so impressed with watching him defensively. The throws he makes down to second base, it's a work of art. So Eli, just how impressed have you been with Joe Mack? I know you were obviously super high on him as a prospect, like most of us were, but has he been as advertised?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much across the board as advertised. Not a perfect defender to this point. There have been a few overzealous throws. A fun stat is that he has just as many passed balls with the Marlins this year as Augustine did. It's in a larger sample, but both of them have the same number there. So I don't want to sugarcoat it just because I'm optimistic about the future. There have been some growing pains. It's just that the brilliance, the good moments have so far outweighed them so dramatically. Today was right up there with one of his best performances. That strike him out, throw him out, double play that he turned. As a whole, I believe he's now been credited with 9 caught stealings overall, and that is just more than Hicks and Gus combined by a long shot, even in a much smaller sample than those two have put together. He's I think the easiest testament to it is just looking at the overall pitching staff performances, because Saturday's game was an example of one of the biggest challenges you have as a catcher when you're doing a bullpen game, when you know that no guy's going to go there more than once through an order. He worked with 7 different pitchers on Saturday, and they end up combining to allow just a run. Let me just double check. 1 run, or was that the shutout? Oh, they ended up on 3 at the end because of Fairbanks. We should get to that in a moment too, about the Fairbanks kind of ruining that overall number. He works so well with everybody except for Fairbanks on Saturday, but then working well with Sandy again today. So this is the number that I dug up. This may have gone under the radar. The fact that he caught not only every game this week, but he caught every pitch this week that the Marlins threw. That's highly unusual. I don't know if Hicks was battling some sort of minor injury, but the fact that Hicks is still well enough to play bodes well moving forward. For whatever reason, Mack was in there for all 6 games in these 2 series this week, and the team as a whole allowing less than 3 runs per game, as has been well noted during a time when their pitching staff is in rough shape, when it's Sandy, Max, and a whole lot of question marks. And yet this was their best week of the entire season at not allowing runs. I think too often we just describe run prevention as pitching, but in this case, Mack is such a good example of how run prevention really is a team number. You really can't just point to the pitcher threw well or the pitcher didn't, the pitcher had good luck or the pitcher didn't. A lot of it has to do with the defense and the combination of his arm and his mobility behind the plate and just the intangibles as well. That's what this team needed. So I think there's enough light, there's enough glimmers of hope offensively too, to believe in that moving forward. Right now, he has a sub 600 OPS, and I know he's striking out just over 30% of the time. Honestly, those numbers could be worse and you could still live with it. You just got to remember that at the catcher position, the standard is a lot different. So those numbers might really disturb you at a premium offensive position, but at catcher, it's really the opposite, where that's the bar is so low to be a competent offensive player. Those numbers are a little bit worse than they were with Gus as a hitter. It's just that it's so far outweighing him by a big margin in the other areas. And this week overall was his most successful week as a hitter this week overall. A combination of finally hitting his first homer, some good hits the opposite field, and then today he ends up making a productive out that leads to an extra insurance run late. So yeah, he is, at the very least, he's made it very clear that he belongs at the big league level, and he's going to be their primary catcher for years to come.
Yeah, I think Jeremiah put it perfectly with how he said the offense is the cherry on top. Like, I'll go off you, Eli. It was a great week to the plate for Joe. I mean, 6 games, he had 6 RBIs. Obviously not in each of those, but just him really stacking him up. I think he's been chasing a lot less, taking a lot better at bats, especially against lefties. What really showed me was that swing yesterday. He had it in Shane McClanahan. Was it runner on second or third? He takes a curveball from the left side, lets it get deep, drives it off the wall to the opposite field. One of the prettiest swings I've seen from Marlin this year, especially for a guy like Joe. That, obviously, Jeremiah, you said it, that a lot of people are saying he can't hit. I mean, it's so hard to hit a baseball, especially going from AAA to the major league level. It's near impossible. So the fact that Joe's been able to lock in a little bit, probably just seeing a lot more pitches, and just settle in, I guess. It's been a big improvement. So, and I guess going off what Eli said about Liam Hitz not catching, I saw Brian Alvaretto yesterday. He hasn't been activated or anything, but maybe in an emergency role. I'm not too sure what the deal is there, but potentially something. I know Liam didn't start yesterday, but he did come into pinch hit. So unsure that I maybe get an answer on that sometime this series, but something interesting.
Yeah, I saw that Hicks hadn't caught really all month. He hasn't been behind the plate for now. What is it going on? Yeah, just about a week exactly. So yeah, like Thomas says in the stream, Mack, the position settled. Mack is without a doubt the catcher of the future. We cannot go without talking about that Saturday bullpen game though, because I was impressed with Lake Bacher to start off with. He's been really, really effective as an opener. I think he deserves some credit there. And if the Marlins continue to utilize the opener, he looks like he fits that role. However, that was overshadowed because later in the game, Pete Fairbanks with another disaster out there, and Tyler Zuber had to come in and save the day, or the Rays likely win that game. Fairbanks ended up loading the bases. Zuber comes in, gets the final out, strikes out Junior Caminero looking. But Fairbanks now, his ERA is up to a 7.41. That is not who the Marlins envisioned signing, or the production they envisioned Fairbanks having for $13 million, the biggest, free agent contract they've given out under the Peter Bendix era to date. So very frustrating with Fairbanks, and it begs the question, how long does this experiment continue? I know the money is a huge factor. I know Fairbanks's pedigree is a huge factor, but he's terrible right now. Does he stick in the closing role for how long, Eli?
Yeah, this is when I had to ask the question for the first time, just because he's had several other bad outings this year, but I could count them up in my head, and I think most Marlins fans would remember them because they're all unusual circumstances. There was that bad game as an opener in New York where they made him the opener because he had to get to the birth of his new baby. So he pitched an inning, he allowed 3 runs in that one. Then his first outing back from paternity leave was another disastrous one against the Braves. But that's because he had like a 9-day layoff. And I remember having a discussion about that, how the Marlins mishandled that, allowing him to really get rusty in that situation. So you could point to another excuse there. After that, there was a performance at Dodger Stadium when he blew that save. And that was one where he was battling that injury. So he kept reaching for, was the thumb that he was feeling it, one of his fingers in his hands. Turns out it's a nerve issue. He ends up missing a few weeks. So that one you could point to the injury. And this is in that category. This was the 4th in that category, this performance where he couldn't even get through an inning. They end up actually winning it for a change compared to a typical blow-up game, but only because they took him out and only because he just could not put away hitters. He got 2 outs in the inning before even allowing a run, and then just could not get that final out. Even when he was getting ahead in the count, just eventually didn't have that put away pitch. Overall, didn't have his velo was there. He looked healthy. It's just that he was not executing at all. You noted his ERA is really bloated. With relievers, I always look at their underlying numbers first, and this is the moment where the underlying numbers are starting to trend in the wrong direction too, where his FIP is his 4.81. To put that in perspective, Chris Paddock, when he got cut, nobody complained about when he got cut. He got released with a 4.96 ERA. That is dangerously close to Chris Paddock territory for Fairbanks because the strikeouts have not been quite there. They've been decent overall, but it's the walks have been elevated more so than any time in recent years with him. And the fact that he's already allowed a few homers, a couple hit by pitches, it all adds up where just in a variety of areas, he's significantly worse than they thought he was going to be. So the short answer is because they don't have like an obvious candidate that I love more as a closer. I think he still has a decent leash. He'll get perhaps a couple more blow-ups before they seriously make a change there. But the fact that this is even a conversation is really disappointing because I thought at the very least he had a high floor as a reliever, that he was a guy that was going to make their bullpen better. Simply put, he has not made this team better so far this season in his limited appearances because of his struggles.
Yeah, and I think it's just I was proud of Clayton yesterday. I don't know if proud's the right word, but he was at 39, and I think maybe he was too amped up, possibly. Obviously, all closers maybe have a screw loose. They're pretty intense guys, but against his former team that he spent a lot of years with, I don't know if that might have been the issue, but it looked like towards the end, especially that Aranda at bat, he couldn't put away Chandler Simpson, that Jonathan Aranda at bat. He missed a lot of fastballs up, possibly overthrowing, just being a little bit too excited. So I think the only other option I would have liked to closer is Tyler Phillips, and with the injuries, he has been starting and opening now. So they are kind of in a tough spot, and with all that money, man, I don't know. It's going to be tough for Clayton and the Marlins coaching staff to pull him away from that role, which at this point, I mean, I guess you got to just let him work through his kinks because he's been through it. He's been in the game a long time. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've seen the Ozzie Guillen and Heath Bell interaction on my timeline the past 24 hours, it feels like. So it is tough. It is unfortunate that when Bruce decides to open the pockets and spend money on a bid time reliever like Fairbanks, this happens. I mean, again, it feels like Avi Garcia. I don't want to go that far, but with the only other time it feels like Bruce has opened his pockets this deep was for Avi Garcia, and we all know what happened there. So it's just tough luck. But I guess aside from that, it did open the door for the demon himself, Tyler Zuber, his first career save. He was very happy after the game. Said it was definitely on the milestone. He was getting out shaving cream from his ears the entire time. He was still shaking after the game, so pretty excited to get that out of the way. So good for him and the rest of this bullpen, man. I had it written in my recap through an out in the ninth that it was a really good effort from the bullpen game, and that happens. But obviously guys like Bacher, who we've seen open, has been great. Anthony Bender continues to be good even after the hidden perfect game goes away. So pretty encouraging from all those guys. Just you want their $14 million man to finish it out. It didn't happen, but Zuber was able to pitch it up and get the win for the Marlins.
We're going to continue to talk about this pitching staff because the rotation needs to be talked about. I mean, the Marlins got a series win, but there's still some questions there. But first, a message from our friends over at FanDuel.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So are you ready to play your game? Head over to FanDuel.com/podcast to get started. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to opt in for daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
So the Marlins get the series win, right? But hidden beneath that, there's some questions I have with this rotation. Number one, the Ryan Gusto, Tyler Phillips piggyback game was just not what you want to see. It didn't work out. Ryan Gusto he was used as an opener, kind of, and then Phillips got the bulk of the work and was okay. He wasn't terrible. Then you had the bullpen game, and then you had Sandy Alcantara. So essentially, you have 3 starters, a converted reliever into a starter, and then a bullpen game. And that's been the story of the last couple of turns through this rotation. I don't think it's sustainable. Kevin Barral noted last week or a few days ago on the previous stream how this bullpen just game, this opener kind of style of play is not sustainable. Ryan Gusto was not good. Braxton Garrett has only had 2 opportunities, and both of which this season had been a disaster. But is he somebody you call up back from AAA? So Nate, when you take a look at this rotation, it's gotten decimated by injuries, and they traded away a couple of guys in this offseason. Where do they go if they want to make a run at this thing in the National League for the wild card? Is a trade potentially on the table? Do they call someone up? What is your viewpoint on this?
Trade, waiver claim, signing. So you got to go somewhere outside the organization for this. I actually did ask Clayton if your exact question, Jeremiah, was a bullpen games like for a month or two, however long, until a guy like Jansen Jock. I mean, we know Yuri's not coming back till post All-Star break. Like, is this sustainable? Didn't really answer it. I asked about eating innings. He said, I don't really believe in eating innings. I don't even know what that means. He said they believe in quality innings. So however they want to get quality innings, I don't know. I asked him if it's going to be outside the organization. Didn't answer that. Tough question to answer, obviously. But I think the best decision moving forward is, I mean, how many times can we see a Dusu out? And I think the Marlins at this point know what they have in Ryan Gusto. I mean, obviously, good pitch mix, but does it play at this level? We're not too sure. But like you said, Jeremiah, I mean, the Marlins are kind of in it right now. They're only, 3.5 games back to a wild card spot. This latest surge has them 4 games under. So I think if you want to stay in it, like you said, waiver, trade, some way that they can maybe dip into that outfield depth, like our intern, Nathaniel Clafnote, another great article. That guy's been killing it as well. So potentially dip into some of that minor league draft, that minor league capital that they do have to get help at the major league level, because it is unfortunate that they have been completely decimated at this level. Maybe a guy like Braxton Garrett or Bradley Blaylock that has more experience eating innings, or not eating, but starting games rather, could help you out. But they've been getting lucky. I wouldn't say lucky, but the fact that the bullpen has been really good. But I don't know how many times you can run out late Bacher as an opener and just completely decimate your bullpen and make bus or plane trips from Jacksonville back. But I don't know if it's imminent or not, but if they want to hang around this thing, I think a move has to be made to get some guys that can eat quality innings, if you want to put it that way.
Right. For the short term, they seem to be stalling until Junk gets back. Junk was on the more optimistic side when it comes to the recent string of injuries. It seems like he's the one that has the best chance of getting back this month, before the end of this month, with his shin injury. We'll have to get another update on him at the start of the next series to see how far along he is in that throwing progression. It's just that Junk is not a guy that you hold the fort until he gets back. Junk is not going to put on his superhero cape and carry the rotation and dramatically turn things around. He was the prototypical 5th starter for this team so far, where he gave you a decent amount of length, but also very hittable. Like, he's not the type of guy that you put your plans on hold just because you think he's coming back soon. Agreeing with Nate, like, this would seem to be an opportunity where you go outside the organization to just try somebody relatively young with upside that may have gotten DFA'd by the previous organization or otherwise is available for what would be extremely low prospect cost. And they haven't done that yet. So that, I thought maybe it's because they really believe in Gusto, and yet each of the first 2 Gusto outings have been so abbreviated and so underwhelming that it kind of shows how they feel about him. He's going to get another start in this upcoming series. We'll see how long that start actually goes. We'll see whether it's an actual regular start for the first time this season, or if it's simply a pseudo opener performance again from him. So with that in mind, with the fact that you look at AAA and just, there aren't any sexy options. Fulton, they were hoping that this is going to be the season that he finally puts things together, far enough removed from his injuries, and he really hasn't. I think Braxton is the next direction you go soon. Perhaps maybe one more outing from him where he's actually pounding the strike zone is when he becomes a serious option. Another one that just doesn't have a ton of upside, though, whether it's for this year or beyond, just because of how much he relies on balls in play. It's an issue so far. And I think to echo what you guys are saying, this is a team that at this stage of the season is still pretty competitive. They are 3.5 back of a playoff spot at this point in the year, even if we feel it's relatively unlikely that the season's going to end in a certain spot. They should give themselves an opportunity to overachieve. Give yourself a chance by taking some chances on players that have that upside to really help at a moment when at the minor league level, at the AAA level in particular, there's not a whole lot of reinforcements that are totally ready to help right now. So I'd like to see them be more aggressive in that department, going outside the organization rather than being so complacent. Right now, they're being surprisingly complacent considering all the injuries that have piled up.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept when you think about the Marlins trading or buying, quote unquote, at the deadline for a starter. And I don't think you can wait until the trade deadline. I think that needs to be addressed really in the next week or two if they want to stay in this thing. We haven't seen the Marlins, like you said, Eli, trade prospects capital at all to get, some guy that's going to start for you and be a viable major leaguer. I mean, Esteury Ruiz, they've made minor trades here and there, but nothing like a rotation piece to solidify and hold down the fort.
Let me jump in with a quick historical reference that some people might appreciate. From 3 years ago in 2023, when that team right around the same stage of the season, and they were in terrible spot with their outfield depth, they made a trade with the Tigers to get Jonathan Davis in center field. That's the kind of guy where they weren't expecting too much of him, but that was an area of desperate need for them. Do you even remember who they traded to get Jonathan Davis? It was this prospect named Brady Allen, who I'm fairly sure has retired at this point now, 3 years later. He was having a nice year at like the high A level, and then he did well in double A after the trade, and then he petered out because, and I bring this up because Marcel points out in the comments, Colby Shade being an example of that. He's having a nice year at high A right now, where he's old for the level, putting up decent numbers, but the Marlins have plenty of, at this point, everything is reversed, where the Marlins have good outfield depth coming up in the organization. They don't need Colby Shade right now. He might get a better opportunity elsewhere. Just a little move like that. I'm not talking about like a big trade deadline-esque blockbuster, but something little different to just address this gaping hole so that they don't keep taking on water, because they do have the talent at other levels and at other positions of the organization where they wouldn't really feel it if they were to make that kind of move.
I don't want to say the Marlins regret releasing Chris Paddock, but if you told me that the injuries that they're experiencing right now, they probably would reconsider that move. I mean, it is what it is, but Paddock's a guy who can start games. And this Marlins team's searching for that. I think when it comes to the minor leagues, I saw some talk about Carson Milbrandt at the end of this year. No, personally, I would not want to see that at all. Not because I don't think Milbrandt is a stud. I think he's a great prospect, if not one of the best pitching prospects in the Marlins organization as a whole. I mean, he's having a breakout year. Incredible stuff. He also hasn't pitched above 100 innings in a professional season to date. So to rush him up through AA, AAA, and get him to the major leagues feels like you would really be accelerating a prospect's development. And he's a guy that still needs some fine tuning, especially with the command. And there you go. 2027, I think, is the target year. Just because you need a whole patched, in this rotation, which they do. I think I agree with you guys. You got to address it outside the organization. But rushing Milbrandt to the majors right now just feels like it would be a folly of the front office to do so. And then Braxton Garrett, I do want to say I'm surprised he's only been given 2 opportunities. I know they weren't good, but I felt like he had built himself enough of a reputation and had a track record of success to give him the benefit of the doubt that he would figure it out. So if you're not going to make a trade, Garrett would be my guy over Blaylock and over the Gusto / Tyler Phillips opener situation. I prefer Phillips in the back end as a reliever. I think he's better suited for that role. But yeah, Nate, any closing thoughts on the pitchers before we move on?
Yeah, I'm with you with keeping Milbrandt down there. I mean, he's obviously been incredible. You just got promoted to top 100 prospect for MLB Pipeline today, so congrats to Carson. Just another Marlins pitching development success from that guy. Middle round draft pick from 23, but he's been awesome. So congrats to him. Don't want to start his clock right now. I know, like we said, the Marlins are kind of in it right now, kind of competing, but not to the point where you rush draft. That feels like kind of if you guys remember from last year, like a Thomas White for Eugenio Suarez type deal. I know we're still thinking about that. But overall, man, you really can't complain from what Carson's done. I'm with you on that, Jeremiah, that I'm surprised. I mean, I guess they're kind of considering Bratson Garrett pre-injury and now kind of a different reputation from what he's shown at the big league level, unfortunately. But the guy can give you innings. I don't know if they're going to be the quality ones that you've seen from him thus far, but I would take a Bratson Garrett start right now. And no distance, like Bachler said, he's been amazing. But just to give you more length, and then keep Lake, who's been really efficient recently towards the back end of that pen, especially with, like we said, how Fairbanks has been doing. If you need a guy like Lake to come in, he's done it before in those big moments with guys on base. So not opposed to that. But maybe in this next week, we'll see some movement. But I think top of the list right now is to get a guy like Bratz up just to, stop the bleeding.
Let's talk about the next series now. Go ahead and preview the 3-game set against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Arizona comes into town for 3 games. Off day on Monday, but they'll be back in action on Tuesday. Arizona's having a decent season. Nothing too crazy. It was interesting because they were sellers last year at the trade deadline, sold off a lot of pieces, but they kept some good guys like Ketel Marte, who's an absolute superstar at second base. And they're 3 games over 500. So they're hovering around kind of in the same position if you're the Marlins, where they're 4 games under. The D-backs are 3 games over. So this is a big series. Kind of like the Washington Nationals, where the Marlins were able to knock down the Nationals a couple of games. This is important for the National League wildcard race. So a 3-game set, big stakes at home. The pitching matchups for the Marlins and Diamondbacks, if I have it here, Zach Gallen is scheduled to make a start against his former ball club, the Marlins, at Lone Depot. And Eli, we were talking about this before, how dominant Zach Gallen has been against his former team.
Yes, that is the first thing that popped into my mind, is that I remember his first revenge game. Of course, he was traded for Jazz Chisholm Jr., and so there were several of those games where Jazz was in the lineup against Gallen, and Gallen got the better ends of them head-to-head almost every single time. But as a whole, Gallen had his way with the rest of the Marlins lineup. So overall, it's been 4 starts of Gallen's in his career against the Marlins, a 2 flat ERA in those 4 outings while averaging almost 7 innings per start. So he's been awesome in those revenge opportunities. As a pitcher overall, though, he's actually having a very bad year again. Like last season, what should have been the walk year before a very what should have been a glorious run through free agency, where he should have been one of the more coveted arms out there. He just failed so bad on various levels last season that he ends up taking a 1-year deal pillow contract to come back to Arizona. And now it's going very similarly to last year, except even with more struggle missing bats. So the overall numbers are pretty hideous with him. It's like a mid-5s ERA. It's by far the lowest strikeout rate of his career, but at the same time, he has that history against the Marlins. And we know that this Marlins team, even this year, offensively, they've just been so up and down. You don't know exactly what you're getting on a particular night. They've gotten shut down by far less decorated starters than him over the course of the season. So I don't know what to expect, but I think this is always an angle that I'm intrigued to see from him. So it's him in the first game, Ryan Nelson in the second game. And I think looking ahead to the Thursday finale, that's going to be Merrill Kelly, who's having just as bad a year himself. So this is a weird Arizona team that has been a little bit better than the Marlins overall, but that's despite having their 2 most experienced starters sucking to this point in the season. So that's going to be a pretty critical factor for this series individually. For the D-backs overall, is how much closer Gallen and Kelly get back to their career norms, or whether they just continue doing what they've done so far this year, which has been mediocrity.
Nate, anything about the Diamondbacks offense to you that stands out besides obviously Ketel Marte?
Yeah, Marte, Corbin Carroll, obviously coming off an injury a few years back. People were worried that he would ever get back to that form, and he's been incredible, obviously. 8 triples at this point in the year. I don't even know how that's possible, especially watching guys like Exonato play every day. It's pretty incredible. This team is overall kind of not playing their best ball right now. They ended May getting swept in Seattle, split against the Dodgers. Then the Marlins just swept the Nats, and Arizona is up there and drops 2 out of 3. So I think the Marlins, again, just like the Rays this series, will meet him at a good time. Outside of, the guys like Ketel and Corbin, I mean, Geraldo Perdomo is slashing to under 700, not what you want to see from a guy that in most years I feel like would be battling Otto Lopez for that spot at shortstop. Nolan Arenado hovering around 700 for his OPS, and a little bit higher than that. So it's an all right lineup. I think the Marlins are catching him at a good time, but overall, I think the pitching matchups do favor Miami. except for Zach Gallen. I think you can throw every stat out the window when Zach Gallen steps into Lone Depot. I'm expecting 7 innings of 1-run ball tomorrow just because I don't know what it is. That guy takes a lot of things personally, I guess. So outside of Zach Gallen and his revenge tour against Miami, I'm confident that this Marlins team can stay hot in the summer months and pick up another series win against a team, like you said, Jeremiah, who is above them in the wild card standings. And then right after that, they have a date with the Pirates, who are just ahead of Arizona. So it'll be a very important week for Miami if they want to stay in it. Again, like we've said, it will be a great time to dip into that pitching depth they have. The minute amount of pitching depth they have now at the minor level with a guy like Braxton Garrett or Bradley Blaylock.
We got a little sneak peek preview at Nate's prediction right there, I think, for this series. And with that being said, before we get into our prediction time, we have a quick read from our friends over at Jet Ski Rentals.
As always, this program is presented by Jet Ski Rentals of South Florida, offering Miami's best jet ski and boat adventures with 6 jet ski locations and over 120 boats. There's something for every style and every budget. Ride jet skis right in front of the downtown skyline and Ferris wheel, or book your own private boat starting as low as $300 with a captain included. Bring your drinks, your friends, and enjoy the water your way. How about tomorrow's off day? Perfect time. If you don't have anything else conflicting with that, the boat is completely yours for the time that you reserve it. They're reservation based only. To book, call 305-990-2192 or check them out online at sfjetskirentals.com. Make sure to use the promo code FISHONFIRST, all one word, FISHONFIRST, to receive 10% off your next booking. Again, that's 305-990-2192 or online at sfjetskirentals.com. This is prediction time.
That's my prediction, but who knows?
I think we have the standings here from this previous series. I'm still up there, tied with 10 of spades. So there we go.
Yeah, you have moved into a tie after this previous series. Better look at a combination of our Fish on First staffers, our valued super subs, any additional live stream guests. They all send in their predictions that we monitor very carefully on the site, updated leaderboard between every single series. Get points for predicting how many games the Marlins will win in the series, who will be the series MVP as determined by win probability added. In this past series, a couple sets of perfect picks because the Marlins took 2 out of 3. Sandy stepped up, got his MVP honors. And a new series awaits us now. So another 3-game set. It's a little bit tricky to predict just because the Marlins pitching plan is so much influx. You know, it's Max Meyer, and we know the names of the other starters, but we don't know how long they're going to go or how they're going to be utilized. And with the off day in between, maybe there's something we don't know about health-wise with these teams that maybe influence the way this series is going to go. So the error bars are a little bit wider with these predictions than they are per usual. But yeah, I'll cue up the music, and then we'll start with Nate for his series predictions.
Yeah, maybe I gave it away a couple minutes ago, but I believe in this Marlins team right now, man. I think the Marlins will take 2 out of 3 from Arizona, and as much as I'd like to, predict Zach Gallen's dominance continuing, Arizona's got 3 righties going this series. Liam Hicks kind of slipping on that RBI leaderboard. I think he adds a few, maybe adds a jack or 2, and pushes the Marlins forward to Pittsburgh.
All right, Jeremiah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a big series. Big series. Miami has to take care of business at home. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to take 2 out of 3. Former Oregon Duck Ryan Nelson, D-backs win that one. Marlins win the other 2. Give me Kyle Stowers as the series MVP. He's had a bit of a down year. He's going to have a big 3-game set.
I'm going to say remain very skeptical of this team, even that as they're coming off as I mentioned, kind of an unmatched stretch of excellence since the very beginning of the season, winning 5 out of 6. Is it really going to continue that much longer? Knowing this team, probably not. Some forces of the universe are going to pull them back down to what they've been for the lion's share of this season so far. All the Diamondbacks taking 2 out of 3. Another Zach Gallen revenge game. I don't think I'll sleep well at night knowing that I trusted in Zach Gallen beating up on the Marlins as he has in the past. So I think he goes deep in the series opener, and he ends up making a difference in this series. So Marlins losing 2 out of 3 at home after coming off this compelling Citrus Series victory.
And that is going to do it for us here today. Of course, after the Diamondback series, we're going to have that recap for you, another stream next week. But until then, for Nate Carsmer, for Eli Sussman, I'm Jeremiah Geiger. So long, stay safe, and as always, let's go fish.